Hey guys, it's Julia. So today's video is going to be my perfect palette tag. So the perfect palette tag is basically where you go through a list of questions that I have here on a clipboard. For example, what palette has the best packaging, best color payoff, most versatile? And you basically answer based on what palettes in your collection you think fits that criteria. So basically this is going to be a video compiling my favorite eyeshadow palettes and some of my not so favorite eyeshadow palettes. For example, what is your biggest eyeshadow palette regret? So those are some of the questions that I'm going to be answering today. This tag originally has 15 questions, but I added on 5 of my own, so there's going to be 20 questions in my tag. I believe this is a pretty old tag. It's from like 2013 or 14. I haven't really seen that many recent perfect palette tags lately, so I just really wanted to revive it and put my own spin on it. Nobody tagged me, I just kind of decided to do this, but I am tagging all of you to do your own perfect palette tag if you have a YouTube channel and you want to share what your favorite eyeshadow palettes are. So without further ado, let's get into my video. Question number 1 is, what palette has the best packaging? So you could interpret this either of two ways. You could interpret prettiest packaging or like most sturdy or functional packaging. So I interpreted it prettiest packaging, and a lot of other people did say that. So I would have to say it is the Too Faced Natural Love palette. Now, if you guys have watched my channel before, you know that I don't really like the shadows inside of this palette, but I keep it purely for the packaging because it's just so pretty. I even kept the outside box that comes with this. It just looks so gorgeous on your vanity. The palette itself is kind of this goldish beige color, and then it has these really pretty velvet flowers on them. It's very springtime, but not as like gimmicky, cutesy, and like childlike as some of the other Too Faced palettes. That's in my opinion. I just kind of feel like their packaging is usually kind of childlike. So this I felt was a little bit more elegant and refined, but still a little bit whimsical. So I really love this palette. Not the shadows, just the outside of the palette is so pretty. So this definitely wins best packaging for me. Number 2, which eyeshadow palette has the best color payoff? So this is a palette that I don't actually hear a lot of people talking about on YouTube for some reason, but this is the Marc Jacobs eyeshadow palette. These are the iconic palettes, and I have the shade Scandalust. So look at these colors first of all. Very like modern Renaissance-esque, except you have this nice copper tone here, and then you have this really pretty berry shade, which is kind of like what's in modern Renaissance. I bought this palette last month in New York City, so it's one of my most recent palettes. I just walked into Sephora, I wasn't really planning on buying anything, and then I just happened to swatch this, and I was so blown away with how beautifully pigmented they were. I'm just going to do a light swatch for you of this red one here, which is kind of like a satiny matte, and then this copper here. So as you can see, very pigmented on my fingers, and then on the arms, they're just unreal. In my opinion, this has even better color payoff than the Modern Renaissance palette, which I also love, but this just has unreal pigmentation, but it also blends out very beautifully. So this is not only one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes in general, but it's, in my opinion, the one with the best color payoff in my collection. Question number 3 is, what is the most versatile eyeshadow palette? My pick for most versatile is also my favorite eyeshadow palette in my entire collection. It is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. As you can see, this palette has a lot of colors in it, but that's not why I think it's the most versatile. Just looking at this, I can get inspired to do like 5 or 6 different looks just looking at it, but you can totally get more looks out of this palette. Really, the opportunities are endless, and there's even some colors in here that I haven't gotten a chance to play with it yet because I think there's so many colors. It's just a huge variety, and I'm inspired to play around with it every single day and create new looks. It's high-end quality eyeshadow at a very affordable price. There are 35 shades in here, and this is $38, so a little bit over $1 per pan. For the amount of product you're getting, it's incredibly cheap. I would totally recommend this palette to anybody who wanted to pick it up. If you're interested in these colors, you could totally create pretty much any look in here, so that's why I think this is the most versatile in my collection. So the next question, number 4, is what palette is best for travel? I actually like taking the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette with me when I travel. However, the cardboard packaging isn't the most sturdy that you could be taking around. So this palette is something I actually take with me everywhere I go because the packaging is amazing and contains really good versatile colors for travel. So this is the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette. You get 5 really pretty neutral matte shades and then this slightly shimmery like satin shade here. I like using this for my brow bone. It creates a really nice subtle eye look. You could do a nighttime look using this black here, or you could keep it daytime using just these ones. This is a good brow bone highlight. You pretty much have every shade you need in here to make a very basic eye look. And the quality of the shadows is actually very good. I don't really like the Naked palettes in general, except for this one and the Naked Heat. The packaging is pretty sturdy. I don't have to worry about it cracking in my luggage, but it's really nice, sturdy, high quality packaging, and I think these shadows are really good. So I love taking this with me for travel. So question number 5, what is your biggest eyeshadow palette regret? I honestly don't have a ton of regrets in my collection because if I buy something and I immediately regret it, I probably am just going to take it back to the store. But this eyeshadow palette is something that I actually thought I liked, and then it turns out I really just didn't. So this is the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. I've already voiced my opinions on this in many different videos on my channel, but I'm just going to say them again. They're very dry pigment, so it just doesn't feel all that creamy and like luxurious on your eyes. I find that there's a lot of fallout with a lot of these shades, and I just never find myself reaching for these. So yeah, this is my biggest regret. It just kind of makes me sad looking at it because these colors are barely used. I know there's somebody out there who would love this a lot more than I do. I actually decluttered this palette in my eyeshadow palette collection and declutter video. You can watch that. I'll like link it down below. I gave it to my mom because she actually really likes the palette, so I'm just borrowing it for this video. But yeah, barely ever used this when I had it, and it just kind of made me sad, so I got rid of it. Which palette has the best color names? So color names refers to like the names of the eyeshadows in the palette. So this would definitely go to Modern Renaissance. First of all, the name of the palette itself kind of strikes a chord with me. I'm a big history nerd, so I know that the Renaissance was a turning point in European history and world history in general. I just love the shade names in here. Buon Fresco, Venetian Red, Realgar, Cypress Umber, Golden Ochre. Really gorgeous, opulent, elegant, like luxurious names. The names just feel cohesive with the theme of the palette and just pulls the entire theme together in a way that seems very like regal. So I love this palette in general, but I also really love the names. Question number 7 is, what is your least used eyeshadow palette? So this has made it through a lot of declutters because I really like the colors in here, I just never reach for it. This is the Makeup Revolution Iconic 3 palette. It's pretty much a dupe for the Naked 3. This was only $7 though, so that's kind of why I bought it. I was really into these like pink tones, but there's so many shimmers in here that I feel like I can't really create a full look using this palette and this palette alone. I always figured that I could do a look just using like the shimmer shadows and then supplementing in some other shadows like from ColourPop or something. But when I reach for a palette, I want to be able to create a full look with it, and I just can't really do that with this. So for that reason, I haven't really touched this. Maybe during like Valentine's Day it'll make an appearance again. But overall, I think I've used this once or twice and just hasn't been touched at all. So this is my least used in my collection right now. And then on the flip side, question number 8 is, what is your most loved palette? So basically, what is the most used palette? And it would definitely have to be the Stila Eye for Color eyeshadow palette. As you can see, I've pretty much cleared out like 1, 2, 3 shades, hit deep pan on like 2 more shades. The rest of the shades are like very dented. I used this a ton when I was like first getting into makeup, when I first started wearing makeup, because I would pretty much match my eyeshadow to whatever outfit I was wearing. So if I was wearing like a purple dress, I would wear purple eyeshadow. Yeah, middle school basically. I'm going really hard too. This was before I used brushes, so I would either use like those little foam tip thingies or I would use a cotton swab. They're really nice quality shadows, and if I ever want to do like a peacock inspired look, I suppose I'll reach for this palette. I just don't really reach for it anymore, but I'm keeping it because it just gives me the memories, and yeah, this is the most loved in my collection. So question number 9 is, what do you like included in your eyeshadow palette? So for example, like brushes or eyeliner. I never really like the eyeliner that they include in eyeshadow palettes, so I don't like eyeliner in my palette. Sometimes brushes are good if they're actually good brushes. For example, the ones that come in Anastasia palettes or the ones that come in the Naked palettes. I really like those brushes. But I'd say that the number one thing that I like coming with my palette is a mirror. A palette not having a mirror isn't a deal breaker for me. For example, I like the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. Even though it doesn't have a mirror, I still love that palette, but having a mirror is just an added bonus. It's convenient for travel and for doing like videos and for using it in videos, because I don't have like a mirror sitting in front of me. I can just use like the palette mirror. So yeah, don't like having liner in my palettes. If it's a good brush, I will take it, and I really like having mirrors in my palettes. So question number 10 is, what palette have you hit pan on? So obviously I've hit pan on the Stila Eye for Color. Shades in here that have visible pan. So I haven't really hit pan on anything else, but I think I'm going to hit pan very soon on the Modern Renaissance. I've made a very deep dent into the shade Primavera here, which is this gold, as well as Golden Ochre, Cypress Umber, and Antique Bronze. Those are some of my favorite shades in this palette, and I think that I'm going to hit pan on those at some point. So I think this is next up in hitting pan. Question number 11 is, what is your favorite Naked palette? That would definitely have to be the Naked Heat. This is the newest Naked palette. I love the beautiful array of warm tone shades. The quality of these shadows is a step up from other Naked palettes, definitely. I like that they included enough mattes in here to create a nice full look. I haven't really noticed a lot of fallout or excessive kick up. The brush that it came with was really nice, and this just creates such a beautiful, beautiful look. And I think it's very unique too. I haven't really seen colors like this on the market. So this is definitely my favorite Naked palette. Question number 12 is, what is your favorite limited edition palette? So for me, that would definitely have to be the Anastasia Beverly Hills Master Palette by Mario. It was created by Mario Dedjanovic, which is Kim Kardashian's makeup artist. He's so talented. He just creates the most beautiful, fresh, very subtle but elegant looks on Kim. So I was so lucky to grab this palette. It's one of the most sought after Anastasia palettes. And the shadows in here look very neutral and basic, but they can create really just gorgeous, understated but still elegant and beautiful looks. So if you're wanting to mimic Kim Kardashian's style of makeup, which is honestly revolutionary for our generation, I think she really revolutionized makeup and made it like a big thing in general. So yeah, I love this palette. This is probably one of my favorites in my entire collection. And the quality of these shadows is really nice and buttery and smooth. So I wish they would bring this back, but if not, I'll totally spring for a Mario collaboration part 2. Hopefully they collaborate again, maybe? I don't know. I would also love to see Mario and KKW Beauty collaborate. That would be really cool. So question number 13 is, what would you repurchase? The number one thing that I can think of would be the Anastasia Modern Renaissance. I'm trying not to like double up in categories on this one, so I'm trying not to say the same thing for more than one category, but Modern Renaissance is really just one of the best palettes that's ever been created, and it kind of ticks all these positive categories. So I reach for this at least once a week. These colors are gorgeous. And I'm definitely going to keep this original one. This is my first one, and it's special to me because my grandma bought it for me. So yeah, I love this palette, and I'm definitely going to repurchase it, but I'm going to keep the original one that I have forever. So question number 14 is, what palette would you recommend to a friend? So this is also one of the newest palettes that I have in my collection, and it is the ColourPop Yes Please Pressed Powder Eyeshadow Palette. So it's very small, but I feel like ColourPop shadows are very, very high quality and pretty easy to work with. They're nice and pigmented, they blend well. And the number one reason I would recommend this shadow palette, and pretty much any ColourPop shadows in general, but particularly this palette, is because this is $16. You get 12 shades. Really, really gorgeous. You can create like a very nice neutral look, but you could also do like a fun sunset look. I'm actually wearing this palette on my eyes today. So yeah, I think ColourPop shadows are a really good, solid recommendation. Very good quality across the board in pretty much any of their palettes, and I just love this palette. So I would totally recommend this to anybody. It's a really, really good palette. So question number 15. What shadow in a palette do you wish was sold separately? So this is actually one that I think about all the time. So here is my Morphe 35O, and I really, really wish that this orange shade here, I'm actually going to hold it the way you'd be looking at it, but I really wish that this corner orange shade here, it's a really nice foiled orange, like kind of glittery shade, but it's very fall pumpkin-y, like burnt orange type of shade. I don't know how to describe things, I'm sorry. This shade here is pretty much worth the entire $22 that it takes to buy this entire palette. Don't get me wrong, the rest of the palette's really nice, but this shade is everything. If they sold this individually, I would buy like 20 of them because this is so beautiful. I've already made a pretty significant dip in this one. I'm just going to watch it. You barely need to touch it, and the pigmentation is insane. It is so beautiful all over the lid. I really wish this was sold individually. If it is already, please let me know because I will buy so many of them. So question number 16, what was your first eyeshadow palette? For me, it was the Urban Decay Oz the Great and Powerful Theodora palette. You can actually pop out these pans if you want to, and it can act as individual shadows. I love how they set up this palette. These colors are really, really nice and high quality. I'm going to swatch this like brown shade for you. Yeah. It also came with a bright red lipstick, which I still have. Very good lipstick. I just really love this palette in general, and it was my first high-end eyeshadow palette, and I think first eyeshadow palette in general before I was only using like quads and stuff. So yeah, this holds sentimental value, but I still use it sometimes. I actually used it last week to do a look, and it's really, really pretty. So question number 17 is, what new palette release are you most excited for? So the palette release that I'm really excited for is going to be the Tartelette Toasted. I believe that's coming out this fall. It's the newest addition to Tarte's eyeshadow palettes. They have the Tartelette Original, Tartelette in Bloom, and now they're going to have the Tartelette Toasted, which looks a little bit more warm-toned, kind of geared towards like orangey, fall-toned looks. There haven't really been a ton of pictures of this palette yet, but I already know that it's going to be so, so beautiful. I don't actually own any of the Tartelette palettes or any Tarte palettes in general. I only have the Tartelette Tees, but I'd really, really love to try some of the Tarte eyeshadows, and I think this is a good place to start because I think the colors are gorgeous and something I would really use all the time. So I'm really excited about the Tartelette Toasted. Question number 18, if you could collaborate with a brand to make your own eyeshadow palette, which brand would it be? For me, it would definitely be Anastasia. I love the way that they arrange their colors. I love the way that their palettes are laid out. The colors are arranged in the most beautiful, thought out way. I know people don't really like the Subculture palette, but I don't think it's that bad. I think it's workable. But if I could collaborate with one brand in my dreams, it would totally be Anastasia Beverly Hills to make my own eyeshadow palette. So yeah, that would be exciting. Probably never gonna happen, but you can dream. Question number 19, what is the best drugstore eyeshadow palette? So for me, it is definitely the e.l.f. Matte for Matte 2, or Matte for Matte Summer Breeze. So these colors are really pigmented, very blendable, just go onto the eyes so beautifully. You can create a really nice look with this, and this is probably the best quality eyeshadow palette that I've ever tried, underneath like $20. This is one of the best eyeshadow palettes you can get at the drugstore. I know some people would consider ColourPop to be drugstore, but I don't personally, because you can't really get it anywhere in the store. So this you could actually get at Target if you could find it. But ColourPop I consider to be in its own kind of like brand dimension because it's online only, so I would consider this to be the best drugstore palette, and then ColourPop to be one of the best affordable palettes. Yeah, this is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes in my collection and the best drugstore palette I've ever tried. And finally, question number 20, what is your biggest dream palette? So basically, if you could have any palette ever, what palette would it be? What are you like dreaming to purchase? So for me, it is the Natasha Denona Star palette. I've tried Natasha Denona's shadows before. I actually have a palette from them, and it's so beautiful. I really hope to someday be able to buy that Natasha Denona Star palette. It's $169, so very expensive, but you do get a lot of product. The colors are just so beautiful, and Natasha Denona's eyeshadows are some of the best formula that I've ever tried in my life. I know it's expensive. I'll have to save for like a couple months, but hopefully sometime in the next year, maybe, safely saying that, I could get the Natasha Denona Star palette. But until then, that is my dream palette. So that concludes my perfect palette tag. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am tagging all of you to do your own perfect palette tag because I really want to know what palettes you enjoy and are your favorites in your collection. So that is it for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Let me know what your favorite eyeshadow palettes are in the comments down below. And if you made it to the very end of this video, I love you. Bye.